Thank you everybody for showing up. John Zerzan is here in Montreal. It's his first time in Montreal, Quebec. We had two great nights, the day before yesterday and the day before yesterday in Yukam. We had really great discussions there. Different points were raised, different questions, and as always, we were saying that there are more questions than answers. So I hope, you keep it in mind, and we're trying to show different ways. We're trying to see what's possible in the future. And John is an author of several really terrific books. He's from Eugene, Oregon. He's also an editor of Green Anarchy. Without any prior delay, I want you to welcome John Zerzan in Montreal.
It's great to be here. Thanks a lot for coming in at a relatively early hour. I'm not always real razor sharp in the morning, and good to see so many people here. Well, this is a workshop, so it's not going to, I don't have a long talk ready. I think there are some people I'm sure here who are current in anthropology, and for all of us I think it'll be a good discussion. I do have a few things here that I want to just introduce things with. This theme is having to do with the anthropology and archaeology, with prehistory, of course, with not forgetting that there are indigenous people here and now, obviously, in struggle and in different places and in different conditions. But the discussion, of course, doesn't have to be confined to the general topic of life outside of civilization either, for that matter. It can go wherever it wants to. I think, to me anyway, the point of the literature, what we can get from the literature, is what we can get from literature. In other words, what is the pertinence of this stuff? How do we look at it, and maybe how we could get some inspiration of how people lived for so long, so differently from how we're living now. For some people, the anti-civilization perspective, and there's no one dogma on that either, of course, but for some it doesn't have any bearing. It's not needed. There are even some objections to referring to it at all. And that's fine. Some people draw on it, just as some of us draw very much on indigenous wisdom that is still here, that is the traditions and lifeways that are still being preserved. That's a real touchstone for some of us. That's probably the cardinal thing that we're trying to learn from, which we try to inform the rest of this thing with, whether it's called primitivism, anarcho-primitivism, neo-primitivism, green anarchy, civilization critique. There's all kinds of names, and there are some differences, which is just fine, because, as Sasha said, there are definitely more questions than answers, and I think that's very healthy, and it's a kind of anarchy spirit as well. How do you, for one thing, prevent things from hardening into just another ideology, which to some degree has already happened. That's a challenge. I don't know exactly how you get around that, but for example, the word primitivist was just used as kind of a joke at first, with quotes around it. Well, the quotes fell away, and now it's primitivism. How did that happen? But we know that's a shorthand word that's not unuseful. It's not unhelpful. The word primitive, in terms of how we mean it, certainly not in any pejorative way, does tell you something. Basically, I guess the idea that, for one thing, if we are to have a future in this biosphere, it's probably going to have to be a primitive future. We can't just keep going in the way we're going. That is becoming more and more obvious to more people. Even, for example, in Friday's Les Devoirs, Bernard showed me this, and this is a book in French. My French is non-existent, and I apologize for that. But the book translated is "Nature Will Save Us: Prehistoric Responses to the Problems of Today." And in other words, there are questions that do lead back to many people to the distant past, to prior to domestication and civilization. And this short review goes on to say that people lived relatively well 500,000 years ago, up until agriculture, up until domestication only 10,000 years ago. So this is not so crazy and marginal. This is what everybody knows. And actually, in terms of anthropology and archaeology, I guess it's a kind of conservative defense, if you will, to say this, but the things I'm going to refer to here are textbook anthropology stuff, Anthropology 101. It's just not something cooked up by anarchists to make a point or to advance some agenda or other. I mean, I'm going to emphasize, and some of us emphasize different things, but the basic stuff is there. And again, that's a matter of some differentiation and some disagreement. Anyway, we've been talking at times about cities. That comes into the question, the future of cities. And certainly there are conferences all over that have nothing to do with anarchists who are talking about it right now as well. The crisis of cities, the megalopolis thing, which of course is just one more thing about civilization that isn't working at all, to put it mildly. And I was reminded that when we hear all this stuff about the die-off, that Chomsky and all kinds of other people, not only on the left but on the right, say these ideas could only lead to a die-off of billions of people. It's just ridiculous and irresponsible and nutty to go in that direction, to entertain ideas like that, as if this would be like pushing a button and overnight something would happen. And no one is talking about that, and a lot of these people know well that that's a dishonest charge, as if people want some instant thing without any kind of preparation or process or transition. Of course, that would be unthinkable. How many people, for example, in apartment block towers, especially in the biggest cities, would be dead within a week if that happened? I mean, of course, that's so misanthropic that that's not it's not what the people I know are talking about.
Can you speak up?
Okay, I'll try. Maybe I'll just try to speak up. And you know, that charge, that thing about the die-off, you're all about the die-off, that's nothing new. From the walls of the first cities, actually that was pretty much being stated right there. The warning of the threat. Outside the cities is nothing but chaos and death. You can't go there, you're safe here. There's no other security. You're in civilization now, and don't try to go back or something like that. It's exactly the same thing that was always said. How do you hold people hostage to the project of domestication and civilization? I think that's interesting in itself to notice that this no escape mantra is absolutely nothing new. Then of course, getting a little more into this thing, people lived quite well in nature, in communion with nature, with an intimate knowledge of nature. It wasn't a matter of this kind of totally precarious, benighted kind of existence. That's one thing that we can get from the literature, from especially in the past few decades in terms of anthropology and archaeology. And I wanted to read about a page of something which to me is just a remarkable piece. Maybe some of you know this. It's actually, there's an